Hi, I'm Lisa Donovan, co-director of BrainWorks, the Berkshire Regional Arts Integration Network. Today, the BrainWorks team and I are going to share with you a visual arts strategy that you can integrate into your lessons in your classroom. Among the teachers we work with, this visual arts strategy is one of their favorites because it's so adaptable. This strategy is also featured in Shell Education's book series, Integrating the Arts Across the Curriculum. It's called Collagraph Printmaking. Printmaking is an artistic process based on the idea of transferring an image from one surface onto another surface, usually paper. Making a collagraph is one of many kinds of printmaking techniques. In this visual arts technique, a variety of textured materials are arranged into an image, glued down onto a backing, and then the image is transferred onto paper or fabric using ink or paint, producing what is called a print. You may notice the word collagraph sounds similar to the word collage, and that's because both of these art techniques come from the French word coller, meaning to glue. As you'll see in just a moment, this visual art strategy prompts students to explore textural properties of material, thinking about composition and layout, and because many prints can be produced, allows students to experiment through repetition. Collagraph printmaking can be used in a variety of ways: to explore geometric and organic shapes, to illustrate a scene or a character from a storybook, or to depict an animal or plant from nature. Let's take a look at how to implement this strategy in your classroom. And as we go along, watch for evidence of learning in the visual arts and science.
Hi, I'm Dana Schildkraut, BrainWorks Content Coordinator and Arts Specialist. To begin the collagraph printmaking process, conduct a demonstration for your students so they fully understand how to make a collagraph print. Start by gathering a variety of textured materials, like a variety of cardboard, foam board, fabric, twine, bubble wrap, and pipe cleaners. Try to gather materials that are around the same thickness. Students can help with this step by collecting materials too. It can be especially exciting to compile items that would normally end up in the trash or the recycling bin. Each student will also need glue and scissors. If drying time could pose an issue and your students are old enough, consider using hot glue for a faster drying time. You'll also need a printmaking brayer or paintbrush and a tool to help rub the paint off to transfer the image. You can use a baren, a rolling pin, a flat block of wood, or your hands. If you have access to a printing press, you could use it for the ink transfer step too. You'll also want some blank papers. A variety of colors is ideal, as well as a tray for your ink or paint. Choose a material to serve as a backing. Sturdy cardboard or wood work well. Today we'll use this rectangular piece of cardboard as our support. In printmaking, this base is known as a block or a plate. Next, envision the final image that you want to create, and do some planning sketches if needed. For this demonstration, I was inspired by an earth science learning standard, and I'm depicting a way that a community can reduce human impact on the environment by changing a community practice. I'll be illustrating a rain garden in an urban setting which collects and filters out pollutants from stormwater runoff. Pay close attention to the textures of the available materials. Texture is one of the elements of visual art. Some materials have surface qualities that are rough, grainy, or bumpy. This is called real texture. Texture can also be implied, meaning that the surface is actually flat but appears to have texture. Choose materials with textures that will help communicate your design. From the materials you've selected, cut out the shapes that will make up your design. Shape is another element of visual art, and shapes can be geometric, often made up of straight edges, or they can be organic and made up of irregular, free-form edges. Play around with the arrangement of the shapes or the composition of your design until you find something that best illustrates your idea. Consider how these shapes fit within the space of the rectangular plate. Space, an element of visual art, defines the area between, around, above, below, or within objects. Space can be defined as negative, such as the emptiness of holes, or positive. Space also describes depth, or the illusion of depth. Once you've arranged your desired composition, glue the shapes down. If you're using liquid glue, set the piece aside to dry completely before continuing. If you're using hot glue, you can move right on to the next step. It's now time to apply ink or paint to the plate. Either print block ink or acrylic paint will work for this step. Print block ink is a bit more viscous. Acrylic paint will dry more quickly, so if you use acrylic paint, you'll need to work a little bit faster. Today we will use print block ink. First, set a placemat down to protect your work surface. Set the plate down on top. Off to the side, have your ink tray, ink or paint, and brayer handy. Squirt some ink into the tray and use the brayer to spread it out into an even layer. Then go ahead and roll it onto the plate. Because the design is a relief, or raised up, notice how most of the ink doesn't touch the back surface of the plate. If you don't have a brayer, here's where you can use a paintbrush to apply the ink. Place a piece of paper onto the inked plate and press evenly with your hands. Or use a flat tool, like a baren, to transfer the ink and textures onto the paper. Now it's time for the reveal. Pull the paper away from the plate and check out the resulting artwork. This transferred image is called the print. With Collagraph Printmaking, you can continue to apply ink to the plate and make as many prints as you like. Consider experimenting with different color combinations. Remember, color is an element of visual art, which is defined as the response of the eyes to different wavelengths of light reflecting off objects. Color can be defined by any of its three properties: hue or name, such as red, blue, or green, intensity, and value. Color is also very effective at evoking emotions and moods. Notice how the resulting prints are mirror images of the plate. Be sure to point this out to students, especially if they plan to incorporate text into their designs. Teach the elements of visual art before embarking on the lesson.
Now that we've seen a demonstration, let's see this strategy in action in the classroom. I'm joined by this group of students who will each follow the steps to make their own collagraph prints. Let's imagine they are part of a science class and learning about climate in different regions of the world and how typical weather varies by region over the course of a year. Each student in the class has picked a different region in the world and is challenged to illustrate in their collagraph an example of a typical weather condition that might occur in that region during the year. Let's take a look at what students have come up with.
Does it change my texture last time? The where it was.
Once students have had the chance to complete several prints, have a class discussion about making collagraphs. Ask the class what they learned from the process, both from a visual arts perspective and a science perspective. Find out what was challenging and why. Have students explain the choices they made while developing their artworks. Furthermore, have students point out positive elements in each other's work and ask each other questions. Let's listen in to the group's debriefing discussion.
I chose a typhoon for my element. This is how it came out. I used bubble wrap as one of my main pieces because usually similar with like how it's raised with 3D or with printmaking. I cut the bubbles so they wouldn't be as defined or like 3D, so when the print came they would like squish down and not have more resistance. Even people who had the same element or same natural disaster all thought of it in like different ways. So not all of us, and it was the same article that we all read. It was like a page long, but all of us could gather different elements from it or different pieces and translate it in different ways.
I chose a typhoon, and one of the things that I read about in the article was about the Tropic of Capricorn, and I thought that was really interesting. I'm a Capricorn, so in my print, I decided to include the image of a Capricorn in it, as well as creating some textures with cardboard and styrofoam to make rain and wind to showcase like the actual weather patterns of the typhoon.
I played with the idea of the tornado, and so I did it with black and gold. The first time I did it with just black, but I think the gold really adds a lot, and the black sort of leaches into the golden fields. And I really tried to play with the idea of destruction because I felt like that was a huge part of the tornado. I used the corrugated cardboard to make these vertical lines, horizontal lines, because it mimics the Great Plains and the American Midwest.
I went with the colors of blue with a little bit of gold to try and bring in more earthy tones so that it had a more muddy look in the end. And I chose to put it on a pink background to bring out the more earth tones of just the destruction from all of the winds, including the directional rain, which was used with corrugated cardboard.
Here are a few final ideas to help you use Collagraph printmaking successfully in your classroom. Turn a finished collagraph into a mixed media artwork. After the print is dry, students can add to it by layering colored pencils, illustration pen, or collaged photographs on top. Remember, teach the elements of visual art ahead of time. Later, you can use these elements as a way to guide and assess students' work. Today, students worked independently, but consider challenging students to work with a partner to create a collagraph together. Challenge students to consider how they'd group and arrange the class's artworks if they were being displayed in a gallery or a museum. Would they be organized by theme, by color, by something else altogether? You'll notice that in arts integration, you don't need to leave the process to assess learning. Assessment is built right into the strategy itself. The planning students engage in as they create their artwork provides opportunities for teachers to assess learning throughout the strategy. A debriefing conversation at the end of the process allows students a chance to explain their thinking. It solidifies academic concepts for them and helps you to evaluate their comprehension of the topics. Integrate language arts into this lesson by asking students to trade a final print with another student. Challenge each student to write a poem or story about what they see in the collagraph. You might even think about assembling all of the artwork in a class book, where students have written text to accompany their illustrations. We explored an earth science connection, but you could use content across curricular areas. Imagine a collagraph created about a book character, the parts of a plant, or math concepts. We hope you'll try collagraph printmaking in your classroom. If you liked this video, be sure to check out other tutorials from Brainworks on how to use arts-based strategies in your classroom, including tableau, movement phrases, soundscape, chants, found poetry, and storytelling. Visit us on the web at brainworks.mcla.edu. You can also check out the Arts Integration series, integrating the arts across the curriculum through Shell Education. Thanks for watching.